Hey, what's up? So this show is one of those shows that I would, on paper, really hate because it explores a concept that has been over-explored in Kenya, and it actually explores something that I hate. You know, that idea of Eastlands as a crime haven. That idea of, I like to call it the villainization of Eastlands. But as much as I did not like that very much, I also really enjoyed it because it had some very interesting quality about it. It's very engaging and sometimes very entertaining. So today we're going to be looking at Jiji. Jiji, now, as a Swahili word, it means city. But in this case, it's the title of this particular show. It's a Showmax original show, and it follows four girls. They live in this place in Eastlands. It's called Jericho, which is usually it lies somewhere between below lower middle class and just about to get to that poverty line. I wouldn't call it poverty stricken. It's not like a slum, but it's just there. It's just as you just start to jump into middle class. It's just there. People who are just about now to enter that level of middle class. They can do better for themselves, but they are not very well off. And so within that particular community, you also have people now who are in the poverty line. You know, people who are actually really poor. And so it follows these four girls as they try to navigate that particular environment. They are out of high school. Actually, they do a very interesting thing whereby they throw you in when they are still in high school. And so you get to watch these young girls navigate that particular hood. And then it flips on episode 2, whereby now you jump into the real world, you move ahead a few years later, and things get very interesting after that. Actually, after the events of episode 1, the end of episode 1, that's when things actually flip and things get really dark and people actually go through a lot. I mean a lot. It gets dark really quickly. Anyway, as a show, as a Kenyan show, what it does well, I think number one is direction, because it comes from a Kenyan cinematographer. He's called Enos Olik. He's a very good cinematographer. He has been doing music videos and now he has somehow switched into directing. He directed Famous, and then now he has directed this particular show. Now the thing that I like, that number one, it has some of the best aerial shots that you'll ever see of Nairobi. I mean, people do a lot of skylines of Nairobi. They do a lot of wide shots, but I'm yet to see a wide shot as good as some of the wide shot that I saw on this particular series. Number two, since he's coming from cinematography, you'd expect that it's going to be a very flashy, you know, it's going to be, it's going to have this epic look, it's going to be this visually stunning show. No, they actually toned it down, and it felt like they chose to focus a lot on what was happening within the story. They focused a lot on the story so much, and they did not want the visual aspect of the show to actually overshadow the story, because they do have a story. There is a very good story. And as much as I hate the idea, the story is there. It's interesting watching these characters go through what they have to go through, because there are a lot of things that are relatable. In terms of performance, one of the standout performances was Julz's mother. I think she's called Mika. I can't remember the lady who played her. She's incredible. I mean, there's a moment after Julz comes back. I just call it that way because you have to see it in order to understand. After she comes back, there's a moment that they actually have that one emotional, really dramatic scene that I was like, God damn, that is awesome. And when I talk of Mika's mom, I also talk about the husband, because the husband is also a contrast of the mother, because the mother is one of those loud women, those, you know, it's one of those women who control the family. You know, they're the breadwinner, and so they feel they're more like the ones who actually run the house. And the man is jobless, and so he just chills out in the house. But he's a very cool dude. He's actually the opposite of the mom. He's the one who's, you know, interacting with the kids, because they also have a small sister. So he's the one who's always good to the kids. And so that contrast makes a very interesting family. When they're having that sit down and argument, and you have the little sister in the background with Julz in the room, and the mother and the dad, that's a very interesting scene. The drama, it's a very charged up scene in terms of drama and emotions too. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought the direction within those moments was pretty interesting. There is also Mwende. Mwende is one of those girls. She's I don't know how to I cannot call her promiscuous, but yeah, dudes like her. She actually has a sugar daddy, and something happens to her and her sugar daddy because she also has a playboy who happens to be a celeb, and so that creates a very interesting, an interesting dynamic and an interesting event that takes place in a particular house. The other character that I actually really liked is Makali, played by Keith. He's now the gangster, the villain, the primary villain. He has his own arc because he needs to become something and he's answering to someone else. But he's very, very, this guy, Keith, plays like, you've ever seen a character, you remember Denzel Washington in Training Day, the way he was committed, the way he chewed the scene. Keith does the same for Makali in this particular show. He becomes a gangster. You can actually see him become that particular character. He's like, he was so excited by this role that he went into it. You can actually see him having fun with the character, doing, I believe there are moments, either he mastered the script so much that he becomes the character, or there are moments that actually he improvised. Because there are moments that I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Like there's a moment that they're having breakfast with the nephew, who is also Mwende's brother. They're having their breakfast, and they move from having a fun conversation about music to him just flipping because the kid got something from someone else and he was not going to school. So that was a pretty interesting scene. That was pretty, the way he was able to just flip. It was less of interesting and more of convincing. You can actually see the character become terrifying in a span of a second. Now, apart from that, the other team that I thought did a very good job was the wardrobe team. The guys who were in charge of wardrobe, the guys who were in charge of the look, the guys who were in charge of the clothes, the guys who were in charge of the makeup, and the set designers. But the makeup and the costume designers, they transform these, these are actors. I need to remind you that these are actors. So there's a moment after the first episode, there's a time jump, a 5-year time jump. And what you saw on episode 1, the schoolgirls, totally transform into adults. And they have that look. You look at them and you're convinced that this is a mother. You're convinced that these people are having a difficult time. They're not schoolgirls anymore. During some party moments, they have costumes that actually make them look like street girls. And it's convincing that they look like street girls. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about. The mechanics look like mechanics because of the way they look like what you'd expect a mechanic in the hood somewhere in Nairobi to look like. They actually have that look. So the location team also did a great job because the location, as much as it's not Jericho, because I know Jericho, despite the fact that the location team did a great job, I've been to Jericho and I know how Jericho looks like. They have a very distinct design in terms of buildings, but their buildings looks more of Kaloleni and Motella. It's less of Jericho. But generally, they were able to mold that look and create that universe using this different location that it feels cohesive. I hope I'm making sense. They are able to create the world. They are able to create an impression of the director's vision of this particular world. So I thought that was pretty cool. So all those technical teams actually did a great job, and I think it's much more to do with the direction. Had a clear vision of what he wanted in terms of location, costumes, and the general look of the show. Now, what did I not like about this particular show? Because apart from that, and I'm not going to talk about, because this is a sufferation story. It's a series that focuses on people who are suffering. It also reminds me of Spinners, which is a South African show, which is more or less close to this particular show. The only difference is that it follows a dude, and their challenges, their motivations are totally different from the motivations of this particular character in this particular show. And so I thought that they were more of the same thing. It's about sufferation, it's about suffering, it's about trying to make it in life. It's the same concept of the talented young person who's trying to survive in a crime-ridden area or home area. And I thought, I've seen this story before, but it's okay, it's fine. The other thing that I had a problem with is just how the male actors are written. That the male characters are written. Because there's no character apart from Apollo, who's Julz's young brother, and his nephew, who's Mwende's brother, who are properly written because they're kids, but they're the most charismatic and charming characters in the show in terms of male characters. all the other characters are just bad, terrible human beings. They're terrible. You can't even have a henchman. You can't even make a henchman who sympathizes with these girls. You can't even, like, there's a scene that I was talking about, Mwende, and she has the sugar daddy, and they're caught in a weird situation, and one character was with Mwende, and that character does something, and you expect him to do something, and then he cuts off at the end and does something else, which makes him now look like any other male character in the show. They're just all terrible human beings. They're just terrible people. Yes, you could go to the dad and say that the dad was actually an awesome dude, but the dad has a friend who just buys him alcohol, and then again, terrible dude, and then the dad doesn't have a job. He's more or less a bum. I thought that was, and talking even of Makali, the primary villain, I wish that they would have done something more with the character. I wish he would have been just slightly more charming, like Apollo. They would have given him a bit of that, I'm trying to do the right thing here, I'm trying to help you, I can see your situation, but they just make him an outright bad guy, an outright gangster. There's no sense of mystery or charm or charisma to him. He's just apart from his nephew and his girlfriend, he's just plain, bad guy. There's another character who's dating a dude, and then the dude is just an abusive husband. And I'm like, come on, can't you? Then there are the mechanics. You're like, really? Can guys actually be this terrible? There's one mechanic that is introduced, and he meets the character, and you're like, oh, this looks positive. And then it goes a certain way. And you feel like all these characters have been deliberately designed to be that way in order to elevate these other particular characters. I wish they would have been given their own mysteriousness. I loved the pastor. There's a pastor who keeps popping up on each episode because there's one character who goes a certain direction, and there's this pastor who's always at home. At first, when he's presented, you're like, wow, that's pretty awesome. And then the next time that you see him, there's something that he says in a certain way, and you can actually see the darker undertones of who he is. You can see his objective, you can see what he really wants, but what was presented before was totally different. So I thought that made him an interesting character. He felt more layered than all the characters that we've seen, because all the other characters that we've seen, they're all one-dimensional. They're just, we are bad people, we are terrible human beings. Even the henchman, for me that was the saddest part, because I thought they would have done something interesting with the henchman. I thought the henchman would be the voice of reason, who would go like, dude, yeah, I know we are doing this, but can't we just maybe give this person a day or night? I mean, we can't do it. We can do it right now, but can't we just, can't you just try to help? Yes, you have someone like that who is, who was it? There's someone else that, this person is involved with Julz during the 5-year period. There's someone who's introduced, and I thought, yeah, that was a speck of, hope and sanity. There was someone who was introduced that was actually positive, but that's just like one person, apart from Apollo and the other person. So I thought they would have done a better job writing these dudes, not just villains all through. If I was to give this show out of 5, I would give this a 3.9 out of 5. It's very, very engaging. It looks beautiful. The music, that's something I forgot to mention. The music is also very good, and it's paced very well. Has some of the best aerial shots of Nairobi that you'll ever see. Has a very, very good performances from the mom, Makali, Julz, because Julz, it focuses on her. Very good locations, very, very good costume designs. And again, I'll go back to performances. They're some of the best performances that you see. That flip from episode 1 to 2 in terms of age, and actually the characters totally transforming, that was pretty cool. And the other thing is just the general direction of the show. There's that structure, there's that, confidence in how events flow from one episode to the other episode. There's actually a constructive pacing in terms of structure. The other thing that I liked was how, because it's coming from a cinematographer, you'd expect the cinematography to be the best thing about the show, but they toned it down in order to accommodate the drama. And when the drama is happening, the music is toned down, everything is toned down. They allow you to experience the drama. What I did not like was, number one, same separation story, crime drama from Kenya. It's something that we've seen for a very long time. The other thing that I did not like was the male characters. They are written terribly. Yeah, they're all just villains. They're all bad people. In fact, the students, Apollo and Mwende's brother, are more charismatic than most of the male characters. Now, Makali is a very, very good character, is the villain. But Makali, again, lacks the charm that is needed to make him more mysterious or to make him more unpredictable. You know, he's just your typical template of a bad guy in Eastlands. And basically that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. I'll probably see you on the next one. So please subscribe for those people who subscribe, for those people who are actually here at this particular moment. Thanks for watching this. I shall see you on the next one.